Most people spend their entire lives staring at the horizon. They wake up thinking about what they don't have yet. They go to bed replaying what still hasn't happened. They measure their worth by numbers they cannot control, timelines they didn't design, and outcomes that arrive on nobody's schedule. And then they wonder why they feel anxious, impatient, and exhausted. Here's the truth most never learn. Success is not built by chasing outcomes. It's built by honoring the process. You don't become strong by wishing for muscles. You become strong by showing up when it's cold, when you're tired, when nobody is watching, and doing the work anyway. You don't become wealthy by fantasizing about millions. You become wealthy by mastering small disciplines practiced daily over a long period of time. You don't become wise by waiting for insight. You become wise by reading, reflecting, and refining your thinking every single day. Life rewards consistency, not intensity. That's where people get confused. They think a burst of motivation will change everything. They think one big decision will rewrite their future. They think success comes from dramatic moments, but it doesn't. Success comes from quiet routines repeated long enough to compound. The outcome is never the work. The process is the work. And once you understand that, everything changes.
Most people want the harvest without tending the field. They want confidence without practice. They want respect without discipline. They want freedom without structure. But nature doesn't work that way. Life doesn't work that way. You don't plant seeds today and demand fruit tomorrow. You plant, you water, you protect, and you wait. And while you're waiting, you keep working. That's the law. You see, outcomes are delayed. They always are. Effort shows up today, results show up later. And in that gap between effort and reward, most people quit. They interpret silence as failure. They interpret slow progress as proof they're not meant for more. They abandon the process because the outcome hasn't arrived fast enough. But that gap is not punishment. That gap is training. That gap is where character is built. That gap is where habits are formed. That gap is where ordinary people separate themselves from the crowd. If results came immediately, everyone would succeed. If growth were instant, discipline would be unnecessary. But life is designed with delay on purpose. Delay filters out the impatient. Delay exposes who's serious. Delay reveals who can stay the course when applause is absent. The process doesn't care how you feel. The process doesn't respond to excuses. The process rewards only one thing: consistency.
Here's something powerful to remember. You cannot control outcomes. You can influence them, but you cannot command them. You cannot force the market. You cannot dictate timing. You cannot guarantee recognition. But you can control your effort. You can control your preparation. You can control your habits. You can control how you show up. And whatever you can control is where your focus belongs. When you obsess over outcomes, you become emotional. You become reactive. One good day lifts you too high. One bad day sinks you too low. Your motivation rises and falls with external results. That's a dangerous way to live. But when you focus on the process, something remarkable happens. You stabilize. You become grounded. You stop riding emotional roller coasters. You learn to win the day by completing your disciplines. You stop asking, "Am I there yet?" and start asking, "Did I do what I said I would do today?" That's maturity. That's leadership. That's personal power. Success is not a destination. It's a direction. Every day you either move toward your potential or away from it. Every day you either reinforce strength or rehearse weakness. Every day you either build momentum or lose it. And these decisions don't show up dramatically. They show up quietly, in small choices. Do I read or scroll? Do I train or rest unnecessarily? Do I practice my craft or distract myself? Do I prepare for tomorrow or procrastinate again? Small choices repeated daily create massive consequences. Most people underestimate the power of ordinary days. They're waiting for inspiration. They're waiting for clarity. They're waiting for confidence. But confidence is built by keeping promises to yourself. Clarity comes from action. Inspiration follows discipline, not the other way around. You don't wait until you feel ready to begin. You begin and readiness follows. Now, let me share something practical. Every goal has two parts, the dream and the discipline. The dream gives you direction. The discipline gives you progress. Without the dream, you wander. Without the discipline, you stall. But here's where most people go wrong. They spend all their time feeding the dream and almost no time building the discipline. They visualize the future, but they neglect today. You don't need more visualization. You need more implementation. Take any goal you have, break it down into actions, not vague intentions, but actions, daily behaviors, weekly commitments, measurable steps. If your goal is financial independence, the process might be learning one new skill per quarter, saving a fixed percentage of income, studying markets for 30 minutes a day. If your goal is health, the process might be walking every morning, preparing meals in advance, lifting weights 3 times a week. If your goal is mastery, the process is practice, repetition, feedback, improvement. Once the process is clear, your only job is to execute it, not perfectly, but consistently. Perfection is not required. Participation is. Some days you'll feel strong, some days you won't. Some days progress will feel exciting, some days it will feel invisible. That's normal. The process doesn't demand enthusiasm, it demands presence. Show up anyway, do the work anyway, honor your commitments anyway. There's a quiet confidence that comes from knowing you kept your word to yourself. There's a deep peace that comes from completing your daily disciplines, regardless of mood. And over time, that confidence compounds, that peace compounds, that identity compounds. You stop becoming someone who tries, you become someone who does. Here's another lesson few are taught. Bad days are not permission to quit, they're invitations to simplify. When life gets heavy, don't abandon the process, reduce it. Do a smaller version. Write 1 paragraph instead of 10 pages. Walk 10 minutes instead of skipping entirely. Study 5 minutes instead of 0. Momentum is preserved by continuity, not intensity. Never let the chain break. Consistency is the secret most people overlook because it isn't glamorous. It doesn't trend online. It doesn't make headlines, but it builds everything. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. So build systems that support who you want to become. Design your environment, remove distractions, prepare your tools, schedule your disciplines, reduce decisions, make the right actions easier to perform and the wrong ones harder to access. Success is not about willpower alone, it's about structure. And remember this, every discipline costs you something now, but saves you something later. Every shortcut saves you something now, but costs you later. You always pay. The only question is when. Pay now in effort or pay later in regret. People ask, how long will this take? And the honest answer is, longer than you want, but shorter than if you quit. There is a season for planting, a season for growing, and a season for harvesting. You cannot skip seasons, but you can honor them. Plant daily, grow patiently, harvest gratefully. The process doesn't promise speed, it promises progress, and progress compounded changes everything. So today, don't ask where you'll be in 5 years, ask what you will do in the next hour. Don't measure yourself by distant outcomes, measure yourself by completed disciplines. Win the morning, win the afternoon, win the evening. Stack small victories until they become a life. Focus on the process. The outcome will take care of itself.
If this video motivated you, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss future content. Comment below and let me know where you're watching from and what goal you're working toward. Share this video with someone who needs motivation today. Let's grow and win together.